Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to speak to you today. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Maybe you could kick off with a brief introduction to this amazing film, The Dive. What can people expect when they watch it?
What can they expect when they watch this? I mean, I hope that they will, have seeing a very thrilling, intense survival thriller, but with a very emotional and true core to it.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe in a nutshell. I'm not so good at this.
And I guess, it is its own quite specific genre when I was thinking about it, the kind of survival thriller, being in kind of like a single location in some respects. So what led you to kind of want to go into this particular kind of thriller, the survival thriller? And how did you come up with the concept itself of it being kind of these two sisters going on this dive?
Okay, so there is a Swedish original. This is a remake of a Swedish original. Yeah, the film is called Breaking Surface, and the screenplay was offered to me before I saw Breaking Surface, and I used to do a lot of diving when I was young. I was a really passionate diver, and I got this. And first I said, okay, why would I make a remake? Most remakes suck, so why would I do that? But then I thought, I have to do this. I mean, I can't. I mean, cannot not do a film underwater. But what a opportunity and what a challenge. And then, I thought a lot about what can I, how can I be inspired by the original film, but still give my own spin to it. And then I changed the characters completely and put a whole new elements in. And yeah, that's basically the origin, I guess.
And did were there other films of this type that you had watched growing up or recently that perhaps like fed into kind of the way you're going to do it? I mean, I've seen comparisons. I haven't actually seen 47 Meters Down, kind of other films maybe set underwater. Then you've got the films like maybe 127 Hours, or there was that film Fall from last year, which kind of went almost kind of viral. So did you have other films in mind, or have others that you kind of use as touch points?
Yeah, of course. When before I said yes to the project, I watched like every survival film that I could imagine. And I was like thinking, because I used to be so fascinated by survival films, survival thrillers, because it's kind of I don't know, it's like a pure cinematic force, to get the audience in that immersive experience. And like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I'm not in those shoes. But it's still like, what would I do? And this physicality I loved so much about survival thrillers. So I rewatched a lot of them, and I said, yes, it's still awesome, and it's really made for the big screen, and I love this immersiveness of the big screen experience. So I said, that's great. And then, yeah, okay, then you start to, or I started to nail it down a little bit. And, for example, 47 Meters Down, it's like, okay, there's a shark. It's underwater, but there's a shark in it, or sharks in the prequel. And I thought, okay, I want to do this like as realistic as possible. And there's no supernatural things, and there's no sharks in it, because I was thinking, at least for the diving community, is like this could kind of happen. And everything they do with the equipment and with the nitrogen levels, it's kind of accurate. And yeah, and I think, okay, when I'm in a cinema and I'm attacked by 40 alien sharks, you lose that realness and that thing, like, what would I do in a situation like this, because I've never been attacked by sharks. So yeah, that's
I
kind of
mean,
the
yeah, it's one of the things that really struck me about it is it feels very real, it feels very tangible. At no point does anything entirely preposterous kind of happen. So I wondered, that must have taken a lot of kind of background research. If you've already got experience in diving, perhaps you had a head start on that. But getting all those details just right, and even the subtle things, like when they're having to change the masks, so everything feels very, very real. So that was definitely something that was important to you. And did that take a lot of research and everything?
Yeah, well, most of the safety stuff and how to change the gears, you learn when you learn diving. So it actually helped when developing it, and making sure that everything is right. It's also helping you, the limitations of the real world, so to say, help in writing also. It's not only, yeah. And then then I thought, the thing is, when you shoot it for real underwater, because there's almost no CGI in the film, everything they do, they really do underwater. When they take off the mask, when they change the equipment, they really do it. And I thought nowadays, where everything is so digital and the audience is used to everything explodes, everything changed, no image is real anymore. And I thought, okay, but when we really do it underwater, maybe we really get that feeling across, and this is and make it powerful, because with our budget, of course, we can't stand up to those megalomaniac films. And and I thought, okay, this could actually work if we do it really underwater.
And what else I think is so well done is, perhaps if we spent the entire film kind of immersed underwater, it might feel a bit overwhelming, but it's punctuated with her going up to kind of the sunny surface of these flashbacks to when they're younger, which of course also brings kind of more of an emotional layer to the story. So can you talk a little bit about that and why that was important to kind of give some extra weight to the story?
I mean, the most important element of every film is the emotional side to it, right? And if you're not invested in the characters, everything can explode and they can be, the greatest pressure, but you don't feel for it. So it was, I mean, as every filmmaker do, I guess, you try to get the audience as invested as possible, as soon as possible. And so, but on the other hand, in a film like this, the exposition can't be too long. You want to get going, want the story get going. But then, the backstory of the sisters, I mean, it was like a balance act. How much, I didn't want it to be too much on the nose. It's more like a suggestion also. And you can pick things up and you can make your mind around it, what happened and what is the relationship, what happened to the mother, to the father. But because the pure, survival thriller action plot line is so straightforward and so thrilling, which always, gets you back into the story, I could allow myself to be a little bit more psychedelic, so to say, in this other element and this other path. So that was great fun also to develop this.
And tell us about the shoot, and particularly working with your cast. I mean, like you say, it does look like they're actually doing all of those things. They're not kind of getting CGI, or I don't know if you had like stunt doubles and things like that. And you really put them through the ringer in kind of pulling off these roles. So what were some of the highlights, but maybe some of the challenges in pulling off some of these scenes?
Well, it is like, first we tried to find actresses who could actually dive, which was didn't work at all, because there are just too few of it, and it's not, so it didn't work. So we thought, okay, then we have to find actresses who are crazy enough to do this, because it was right from the beginning, we said we really want to shoot underwater. And diving is like a really psychological challenging thing. I was always afraid that they start the training, but then they just quit. And they said, okay, I can't do this, which can happen. I mean, you can dive for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then suddenly you get this one experience underwater and it clicks, and you think, oh, I'm done with it. I never go underwater again. And some people just, can't do diving at all from the beginning. They just can't get used to the breathing underwater. So we found Louisa and Sophie, great actresses. And I was like, yes, but then, okay, now we have to take it really slow with the dive training. Because of course they were nervous. And when you go into the water the first time and you breathe underwater the first time, but then you think, oh my God, I got to do this film with all that stuff. You think, never am I going to do this. So we always try to, take the pressure off and make it as fun as possible, so that they get really, so that they could like share my love for diving also, and like getting used to it. And then they were really natural talents, and they picked it up and they loved it, and now they are divers, and they did a lot of diving after the film, and that was the best thing that could happen. And also, what I have to say, I can't appreciate enough, or how to say, put enough, emphasis on how difficult it is to act underwater in those masks. I mean, they were just waiting underwater all the time with his masks on, and then they had to act terror and like fright and anxiousness and panic, and this is very close to the real emotion then. But if you really panic underwater, it's really dangerous. So it was super important, of course, that they were really good at it, and that they could still knew what they were doing. And yeah, and I can't tell you enough how much I owe Sophie and Lisa for that performance. It's really amazing. So
it's really funny when you were saying that about how it happens to some people, because I'd done a diving course, but then I went back to do this random dive on holiday, and I was honest about the fact that I hadn't dived for ages and had a really bad experience and never want to go again. So I had the extra of watching this film, of me myself having a bit of a fear of it. And so the claustrophobia, I guess, some people might never have dived before and think it looks a bit scary. But if you actually have a fear of things like that, then the stakes are really up. So that is something that's really effectively done, because you have to believe how difficult that is in order for the thrills to be there.
absolutely, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking, is it interesting that a lot of these films are female led? Because there's something, specific about the fact that it's these two women, they're sisters, and the way they have to kind of dig deep, into their own resourcefulness, but also how much they care for each other becomes really relevant, because that's what, otherwise, if there wasn't that connection, if you were the person at the surface, would you just go? So is there something very specific about the fact that these films are often female led, and something about that relationship and seeing, to what limits they can push themselves?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I guess it's because we have seen so many films with male protagonists in those films. And for me, like imagine those films where like two brothers in a remote location, they go diving and then something happens. You would think, okay, the expectation you create in the audience is like, okay, two brothers, okay, I guess they are gonna be tougher than tough. Okay, they'll be super tough, and they like overcome all obstacles through strengths and through like resilience. Of course, the dive is also about strengths and resilience and overcoming all these obstacles. But I don't know, from a female perspective, I don't know, it felt just more interesting in a way to like set the expectations right, that this is not just fight. This is like, yeah, it's also a very, very emotional journey, so to say. I mean, of course you can also do it with men, but I don't know, just felt better. And then the other thing, I mean, depart from the gender, is like they are normal people. They are not super divers, and they are not like super capable. May is a professional diver, yes, but she's still a human being. And Drew she's just a normal girl. It's not like that she has like, and I don't know, was male protagonist in those, sporty environments, you would think, okay, they must be extreme climbers or extreme divers, or you always go into those extremes, you know what I mean? And then felt like it's like more down to earth with normal people and sisters. I don't know. Yeah.
The only thing I was going to ask as well is, I mean, there is sometimes with these films, from the, part of it as well is watching it going, but why would you do that? Why would you go to this remote place without telling someone where you're going or leaving some mark? But I mean, I don't know how much maybe people do that. And I think there are people out there who are these kind of adrenaline junkies, or people that free climb and free dive, in fact. So actually, it's not completely preposterous that someone might do that.
Actually, I was hoping that it's not, I mean, yes, it is a remote location, but it's not a dangerous dive. That's what she says in the beginning. It's not that kind of cave. I mean, then there's the rock fall is really bad luck, but it's not that they're doing something completely weird. If you are on that level of diving, and she's like Louisa or May is a professional diver, come on, you go diving in a spot like this. It's not super crazy. And so yeah, of course, people always write, okay, I would never do. Why would you do this? I mean, the whole premise of the film sucks, because why would you do this But you know, as a diver, I mean, it's not that crazy.
And I'm almost out of time, but you know, what do you hope people take away from watching it? And you know, you're sat there, your palms are sweating, you're really on the edge of your seat. You're so kind of, you know, immersed, like, you know, in the film, but like also kind of metaphorically. You come out the other side of it, though. You know, is there some kind of catharsis that we feel from kind of, you know, we're sat on the sofa, but we're transported through this completely stressful situation? Like, what is it that happens to audiences when they watch films like this?
Well, like, yeah, I mean, it's difficult to answer because, you know, in a perfect world, I mean, yes, the audience is, you know, it's like it's like very stressful to watch it, yeah, and of course you get anxious and all of this, but in the end, I think it's it's like a very positive film, so to say. And I don't want to go too much into the layers there, but I think it's also about kind of, you know, accepting death in a way, because that's what the character of May kind of does. She's helpless underwater and get into this meditative psychedelic stream of consciousness state, and she kind of, in the end, she's like accepting it. And it's something very, for me, very, I don't want to say positive, but it's something true to it and something that I could relate to when I was writing it, so to say. And yeah, and I hope it's a little bit more than just a thrill ride. It's, yeah. And there's also like the relationship of the sisters also change, and I don't know, I don't want to, you know, give away too much. So yeah.
And just very quickly, do you already know what you might be working on next? Is it another English language film, something different?
Well, I'm right now in Prague, and I'm in the pre-production for a series I do for Netflix, the second season of The Empress. So that's what I'm doing right now till February, the shoot, and then the post-production. But yeah, I would love to do an English language film.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for chatting to me, and can't wait for everyone else to see The Dive. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Lovely to chat to you. Thanks. Bye.